In the dusty town of Redemption Creek, 1887, widowed farmer Samuel Hayes discovers a scarred young woman being tormented by cruel townspeople. His simple act of offering her shelter sets in motion a chain of events that will reveal shocking truths about her past and transform an entire community. Sometimes the most broken souls carry the greatest capacity for healing others. Witness how one man's compassion uncovers a mystery that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice, family, and the power of human kindness. This story will stay with you long after the final scene. The merciless August sun beat down on Redemption Creek's main street, turning the dirt road into a furnace that shimmered with heat waves. Samuel Hayes wiped the sweat from his weathered brow as he guided his wagon through town, the wooden wheels creaking a familiar rhythm against the hard-packed earth. At 53, Samuel had learned to appreciate these quiet moments, the steady clip-clop of his mare's hooves, the gentle sway of the wagon bed loaded with fresh corn and tomatoes from his farm. But today's peace shattered like glass against stone. A crowd had gathered near the general store, their voices rising in cruel laughter that made Samuel's jaw tighten. He pulled the reins, bringing his wagon to a stop as he tried to see what had captured everyone's attention. Through the circle of jeering faces, he glimpsed a young woman hunched against the store's wooden wall, her arms wrapped protectively around her knees. "Look at that face," Martha Sinclair's shrill voice cut through the morning air. "No wonder she keeps that hood up. Probably scared her own reflection right out of mirrors." More laughter erupted from the crowd. Samuel felt his stomach turn as he caught sight of the woman's face. The left side bore angry red scars that twisted from her temple to her jaw, pulling at her eye and the corner of her mouth. She couldn't have been more than 20, yet her dark eyes held the kind of pain that aged souls beyond their years. "Bet those scars go all the way down," sneered Tom Bradley, the blacksmith's son. "Wonder what devil marked her like that." "Probably witchcraft," whispered Mrs. Henderson, crossing herself dramatically. "My grandmother always said scars like that come from dark dealings." Samuel watched the young woman flinch at each cruel word, her scarred fingers pulling the tattered brown cloak tighter around her thin frame. Her clothes were travel-worn and dusty, suggesting she'd been on the road for days, maybe weeks. A small cloth bundle sat beside her, likely everything she owned in the world. "Please," the woman's voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried clearly in the still air. "I just need some water and maybe a bit of bread. I can work for it." "Work?" Martha Sinclair cackled. "Who'd hire something that looks like you? You'd frighten the customers away." The crowd pressed closer, their entertainment apparently just beginning. Samuel had seen enough. These people claimed to be God-fearing Christians, yet here they were tormenting someone who clearly needed help rather than harassment. "That's enough!" Samuel's voice boomed across the street as he climbed down from his wagon. The crowd turned, surprised by his intervention. Samuel Hayes was well respected in Redemption Creek, a man who kept to himself but was known for his honesty and hard work. "Now, Samuel," Martha began, her tone sickeningly sweet, "we're just having a bit of fun. No harm done." "No harm?" Samuel's blue eyes flashed with anger as he pushed through the crowd. "You call this Christian behavior? Mocking someone who's clearly in need?" He knelt beside the young woman, his voice gentling. "Miss, are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" She looked up at him with startled dark eyes, as if kindness was the last thing she'd expected. "No, sir. Just tired and hungry." "Well, we can fix that easy enough." Samuel stood and extended his hand to her. "My name's Samuel Hayes. I've got a farm about 3 miles out of town. You're welcome to a hot meal and a place to rest." The woman stared at his outstretched hand as if it might be a trap. "Why would you help me? Look at me. I'm hideous." Samuel's heart clenched at the pain in her voice. "I see a young woman who needs help, that's all that matters." He kept his hand extended, patient and steady. "What's your name?" "Anna," she whispered. "Anna. Thornfield." There was a slight hesitation before the surname, as if she wasn't entirely comfortable with it. Samuel noticed but didn't press. Everyone had their secrets, and hers were clearly painful enough. "Well, Miss Thornfield, would you do me the honor of accepting my hospitality?" Anna looked around at the crowd, which had grown silent and hostile. She seemed to weigh her options, the unknown with this stranger against the certain cruelty of the townspeople. Finally, she placed her small, scarred hand in his calloused palm. Samuel helped her to her feet, noting how light she was. Too light. When had she last had a proper meal? He retrieved her small bundle and guided her toward his wagon, ignoring the disapproving murmurs from the crowd. "Samuel Hayes, you're making a mistake," Martha Sinclair called out. "That girl's trouble, mark my words. Look at her. Those scars are a sign. Good Christian folk don't get marked like that, unless they've done something to deserve it." Samuel turned back to face the crowd, his jaw set in determination. "The only sign I see is that she needs help, and it's our Christian duty to provide it. I'm ashamed of all of you." He helped Anna into the wagon seat, noting how she kept her scarred side turned away from him. As they rolled out of town, Samuel could feel the weight of judgmental stares following them like storm clouds. The ride to his farm passed in comfortable silence. Anna seemed to be drinking in the landscape. The rolling hills dotted with oak trees, the clear creek that ran alongside the road, the vast sky that stretched endlessly overhead. Samuel found himself stealing glances at her, trying to imagine what tragedy had marked her so cruelly. His farmhouse came into view as they crested a small hill. It was a modest two-story structure, with a wraparound porch surrounded by well-tended fields of corn, tomatoes and beans. A red barn stood nearby, and chickens pecked in the yard. It was simple, but clean and well-maintained, a place that spoke of honest work and quiet contentment. "It's beautiful," Anna breathed, and Samuel felt a surge of pride. He'd built this life with his late wife, Margaret, and maintained it alone for the 5 years since her passing. "Welcome to Hayes Farm," he said, pulling the wagon up to the front porch. "It's not much, but it's home." As he helped Anna down from the wagon, she stumbled slightly, and he realized just how exhausted she was. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her lips were cracked from dehydration. "First things first," Samuel said, guiding her up the porch steps. "Let's get some water in you, then a hot meal." Inside, the house was clean and comfortable, though it bore the subtle signs of a man living alone, practical rather than decorative. Anna stood uncertainly in the kitchen doorway, as if afraid to intrude further. "Sit," Samuel instructed gently, pulling out a chair at the kitchen table. He pumped water from the well into a pitcher and poured her a tall glass. Anna drank it greedily, then another and another. "Slow down there," Samuel cautioned with a smile. "You'll make yourself sick." As he began preparing a simple meal of eggs, bacon, and fresh bread, Samuel found himself wondering about Anna's story. The scars were old, at least several years, judging by their appearance. But there was something else about her, something that nagged at the edges of his memory like a half-forgotten dream. "Mr. Hayes," Anna said suddenly, her voice uncertain, "why are you being so kind to me? Everyone else, they look at me like I'm a monster." Samuel paused in his cooking, turning to face her. "My late wife used to say that scars are just proof that we survived something that tried to break us. They don't make us monsters, they make us human." Tears welled in Anna's dark eyes. "Your wife sounds like she was a wonderful woman." "She was," Samuel agreed softly. "Margaret saw the good in everyone, even when they couldn't see it in themselves." As the day wore on, Samuel found himself drawn to this mysterious young woman. Despite her obvious pain and the cruelty she'd endured, there was a gentleness about Anna that reminded him of Margaret. She insisted on helping with the evening chores, moving through the kitchen with surprising grace as she helped prepare dinner. That night, as they sat on the front porch watching the sun set over the hills, Anna finally began to share fragments of her story. She'd been traveling for months, she said, looking for somewhere to belong. The scars were from a fire when she was younger. She didn't elaborate, and Samuel didn't push. "I've never known kindness like this," she admitted, her voice barely audible in the gathering dusk. "Most places, they chase me out before I can even ask for help." "Then most places are full of fools," Samuel replied firmly. "You're welcome here as long as you need, Anna. This house has been too quiet for too long." As the stars emerged in the darkening sky, neither of them could have imagined the storm of revelation and redemption that was about to descend upon their quiet corner of the world. The rooster's crow pierced the pre-dawn darkness, but Samuel was already awake, lying in his bed and listening to the gentle sounds of someone moving quietly in the kitchen below. Anna had been with him for 3 days now, and already the farmhouse felt more alive than it had since Margaret's passing. The scent of coffee and frying bacon drifted up the stairs, and Samuel smiled despite himself. When had he last awakened to the sound of someone else caring for his home? He dressed quickly and made his way downstairs, finding Anna standing at the stove, her scarred face turned away from the doorway. She'd found one of Margaret's old aprons, and it hung loose on her thin frame, but there was something right about seeing her there, tending to the morning meal as golden sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows. "You don't have to do all this," Samuel said gently, not wanting to startle her. "You're a guest here, not a servant." Anna turned, and he caught the full impact of her scars in the morning light. The damaged skin was a patchwork of red and white, pulling at her left eye and distorting her smile. Yet there was something beautiful about her face, an inner light that the fire hadn't been able to touch. "I want to help," she insisted, her voice stronger than when she'd first arrived. "You've given me more kindness in 3 days than I've known in years. Please let me contribute something." Samuel nodded, understanding the need to feel useful, to have purpose. He'd felt that same desperation after Margaret's death, when well-meaning neighbors had tried to coddle him. Work was healing. It gave structure to grief and meaning to empty days. Over breakfast, they fell into comfortable conversation. Anna asked about the farm, about the crops and animals, and Samuel found himself explaining things he'd taken for granted for years. She listened with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions that revealed a sharp mind behind those wounded eyes. "You seem to know quite a bit about farming," Samuel observed as they walked out to check on the vegetable garden. "Did you grow up on a farm?" Anna's step faltered slightly. "Something like that," she murmured, then quickly changed the subject. "Your tomatoes are coming along beautifully. The soil here must be very rich." Samuel let the deflection pass, but he filed away another piece of the puzzle that was Anna Thornfield. She had knowledge she shouldn't have, spoke with an education that didn't match her circumstances, and carried herself with a dignity that suggested she hadn't always been a wandering outcast. As the days passed, Anna began to bloom like a flower finally given proper soil and sunlight. The dark circles under her eyes faded, her step grew lighter, and she even began to smile more freely. Samuel found himself looking forward to their conversations over meals, to the sound of her humming as she worked in the garden, to the way she made the house feel like a home again. But it was on their 5th evening together that everything changed. Samuel had gone into town for supplies, leaving Anna to tend the animals. When he returned, he found her in the barn, sitting cross-legged in the hay with his old milk cow, Bessie. The normally cantankerous animal was placid as a lamb, allowing Anna to stroke her head while she sang a low, sweet lullaby. "I swear that cow has never been this calm," Samuel said, leaning against the barn door. "What's your secret?" Anna looked up, and in the golden light filtering through the barn slats, Samuel saw something that made his breath catch. For just a moment, the scars seemed to fade, and he glimpsed the face she might have had, should have had, without the fire's cruel mark. "Animals don't see scars," Anna said simply. "They see hearts." That night, as they sat on the porch swing Margaret had insisted on before her death, Anna finally began to tell her real story. The words came haltingly at first, then in a rushing flood, as if a dam had finally burst. "The fire wasn't an accident," she whispered, her fingers unconsciously tracing the scarred skin. The people who raised me, they set it. I was 15. They said I was cursed, that I brought bad luck to the family." Samuel's hands clenched into fists. "They tried to kill you? They wanted to scare me away, I think, but the fire spread faster than they expected. I barely escaped." Anna's voice was steady now, as if telling the story had robbed it of some of its power to hurt her. "I've been running ever since, 5 years of moving from town to town, always being driven out by people who think I'm cursed or marked by the devil." "You're not cursed," Samuel said fiercely. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." Anna turned to look at him, tears glinting in her dark eyes. "How can you say that? Look at me, Samuel. I'm hideous. I'm broken." Before he could think better of it, Samuel reached out and gently touched the scarred side of her face. Anna flinched but didn't pull away, her eyes wide with shock. "I see a woman who survived something that would have destroyed most people," Samuel said softly. "I see someone with a gentle heart and a fierce spirit. I see someone beautiful." The tears spilled over then, and Anna collapsed against his chest, sobbing with the accumulated pain of years. Samuel held her, feeling his own heart break for all she'd endured, and mend again with the fierce protectiveness that rose within him. They stayed like that until the stars came out, two wounded souls finding healing in each other's company. When Anna finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clearer than Samuel had ever seen them. "I have to tell you something else," she said, her voice barely audible. "My name. It's not really Anna Thornfield." Samuel waited, patient as always. "It's Anna Bishop. My father is Judge Ezekiel Bishop." The name hit Samuel like a physical blow. Judge Bishop was a powerful man, known throughout the territory for his harsh sentences and rigid interpretation of the law. He was also known for his political ambitions and his pristine reputation. "He disowned me after the fire," Anna continued, her voice flat with old pain. "Said I was a disgrace to the family name, that no one would ever believe such an important man could have a daughter who looked like a monster. He told people I died in the fire. For all practical purposes, Anna Bishop did die that night." Samuel felt a cold anger building in his chest. What kind of father could abandon his own child in her moment of greatest need? What kind of man would choose reputation over love? "He doesn't deserve to call himself your father," Samuel said, his voice rough with emotion. "He's remarried since then," Anna went on. "Has a new family, a son who'll carry on the Bishop name without any embarrassing scars to explain away." As Anna's story unfolded, Samuel began to understand the full scope of her courage. She hadn't just survived a terrible fire. She'd survived years of rejection, abandonment, and cruelty from the very people who should have protected her. Yet somehow, she'd maintained her capacity for kindness, her ability to see beauty in simple things like a sunset or a friendly cow. "What made you finally tell me?" Samuel asked. Anna was quiet for a long moment, watching the fireflies dance among the cornstalks. "Because for the first time in 5 years, I feel safe. You make me feel human again." Samuel's heart swelled with an emotion he hadn't felt since Margaret's death. This broken, beautiful woman had wandered into his life and somehow made it whole again. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from any more pain, to show her every day that she was worthy of love. But even as hope bloomed between them in the soft summer darkness, neither could have foreseen the reckoning that was already riding toward Redemption Creek. Judge Ezekiel Bishop had built his reputation on the foundation of his daughter's supposed death, and some secrets were worth killing to protect. The peaceful days at Hayes Farm were numbered, and the true test of Anna's courage and Samuel's love was about to begin. 2 weeks had passed since Anna's revelation, and life at Hayes Farm had settled into a rhythm of quiet contentment. Samuel found himself whistling as he worked the fields, while Anna had transformed the farmhouse with her gentle touch. Fresh wildflowers on the kitchen table, curtains washed and pressed, and the kind of care that only a woman's hand could provide. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch talking about everything and nothing, and Samuel began to dare hope that perhaps they could build a future together. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The trouble began on a sweltering Tuesday morning when Samuel rode into town for supplies. The moment he stepped into Morrison's general store, he knew something was wrong. Conversations died mid-sentence, and the usual friendly nods were replaced by cold stares and whispered conferences behind his back. "Samuel," called out Sheriff Pete Garrett from the corner where he'd been examining a new shipment of rifles. "Need to have a word with you." Samuel felt his stomach clench. Pete had been a friend for years, but there was something official and distant in his tone now. "What's on your mind, Pete?" "It's about that girl you've been harboring," the sheriff said, his weathered face grim. "Anna Thornfield, or whatever her real name is." "What about her?" Samuel kept his voice steady, though alarm bells were ringing in his head. "Got a telegram yesterday from Judge Ezekiel Bishop down in Silver City. Seems he's been looking for a young woman matching her description. Says she's dangerous. Might be connected to some missing money and a fire that killed 3 people. The blood drained from Samuel's face. "That's impossible. Anna would never hurt anyone." "Maybe not," Pete said, though his tone suggested he had doubts. "But Judge Bishop is a powerful man, Samuel. He's sending some men up here to collect her. Says she's his ward, ran away from a hospital where she was being treated for mental instability." Samuel's hands clenched into fists. Even from hundreds of miles away, Judge Bishop was weaving his web of lies, rewriting history to protect his precious reputation. "She's not mentally unstable, Pete. She's the sanest person I know. Look, I like you, Samuel, always have. But this is bigger than both of us. Judge Bishop has connections clear up to the territorial governor. If this girl is who he says she is, you could be charged with harboring a fugitive. Samuel left town with his supplies, but without any peace of mind. As his wagon rumbled along the dusty road toward home, he wrestled with what to tell Anna. Should he warn her to run? Should they face this together? The thought of losing her now, just when he'd found happiness again, was almost unbearable. He found Anna in the vegetable garden, her face turned up to the afternoon sun as she picked tomatoes. She looked so peaceful, so content, that Samuel's heart ached with the knowledge of what was coming. "Anna," he called softly, and she turned with that brilliant smile that never failed to make his pulse quicken. "Samuel, you're back early. I was just thinking we could make that tomato soup you mentioned." She stopped mid-sentence, reading the worry in his expression. "What's wrong?" Samuel helped her to her feet, his hands lingering on hers. "We need to talk." Inside. In the kitchen, over cups of coffee neither of them touched, Samuel told her about his conversation with the sheriff. He watched the color drain from Anna's face as he repeated Judge Bishop's lies about mental instability and missing money. "He's coming for me," she whispered, her scarred hand trembling as she set down her cup. "I should have known he wouldn't let me disappear completely. I'm a loose end, a potential threat to everything he's built." "Then we'll leave," Samuel said immediately. "Tonight, we'll take the wagon and head north, maybe up to Canada. I've got some money saved." "No." Anna's voice was firm, though tears glittered in her dark eyes. "I won't let you destroy your life for me. This farm is your home, your livelihood. I won't take that away from you." "This place means nothing without you in it," Samuel said fiercely. "Anna, these past 2 weeks, I love you. I love your strength, your kindness, the way you make everything brighter just by being here. I don't care about the scars or the past or any of it." Anna's tears spilled over then, and she reached across the table to cup his weathered cheek in her palm. "I love you too, Samuel Hayes, more than I ever thought possible. That's why I have to go." Before Samuel could argue further, the sound of approaching horses cut through the evening air, many horses moving fast. Anna went to the window and peered through the curtains, her face going white. "They're here," she breathed, "at least a dozen men." Samuel joined her at the window and cursed under his breath. The riders were dressed like law enforcement, but there was something wrong about them. Too many guns, too much swagger. These weren't sheriff's deputies, they were hired guns, dressed up to look official. "Listen to me," Samuel said urgently, taking Anna by the shoulders. "There's a root cellar behind the barn, hidden by some loose boards. Margaret used to store preserves there. You can hide—" "Samuel Hayes!" A voice boomed from the yard, cold and commanding. "Send out the girl and no one gets hurt." Samuel stepped onto the front porch, Anna close behind him despite his attempts to keep her inside. The man who'd spoken sat his horse like a general surveying a battlefield. He was tall and lean, with silver hair and the kind of face that suggested he'd never smiled in his life. Even without being told, Samuel knew this was Judge Ezekiel Bishop. "Judge Bishop, I presume," Samuel called out, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "Indeed. And you must be the farmer who's been harboring my daughter." Bishop's pale eyes flicked to Anna, and Samuel saw something cold and murderous in that gaze. "Anna, come here now." "She's not going anywhere with you," Samuel said, stepping protectively in front of her. Bishop's laugh was like breaking glass. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, farmer. That creature you've been sheltering is a dangerous criminal. She murdered 3 people in a house fire and stole over $5,000 from my safe." "That's a lie." Anna stepped out from behind Samuel, her chin raised defiantly. "The only thing I ever stole from you was the right to exist." For just a moment, Judge Bishop's mask slipped, and Samuel saw the cruel man beneath the respectable facade. "You should have stayed dead, girl. It would have been easier for everyone." "Easier for you, you mean?" Anna shot back. "Easier to build your political career without an ugly daughter to explain away." The armed men shifted restlessly in their saddles, hands drifting toward their weapons. Samuel realized with growing dread that these men weren't here to arrest Anna. They were here to kill her, and anyone who stood in their way. "Last chance, farmer," Bishop said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "Step aside or share her fate." Samuel looked back at Anna, seeing the fear in her eyes but also something else. a fierce determination that reminded him why he'd fallen in love with her. She was prepared to face this monster who called himself her father, even if it meant death. But Samuel Hayes had faced death before during the war, and he'd learned something important. Sometimes the only way to beat a bully was to stand up to him, no matter the odds. "I reckon I'll stand right here," Samuel said calmly, reaching for the rifle he kept by the front door. "This is my land, and Anna is under my protection." Judge Bishop's face twisted with rage. "Kill them both," he snarled to his men. "Make it look like a robbery gone wrong." But before anyone could draw their weapons, a new voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I don't think so, Judge." Everyone turned to see Sheriff Pete Garrett emerging from the tree line, followed by what looked like half the territorial militia. The lawmen had their rifles trained on Bishop's hired guns, and the odds had suddenly shifted dramatically. "Pete," Samuel called out confused, "what are you doing here?" "My job," Pete replied grimly. "Got a very interesting telegram about an hour after you left town. Seems the real Judge Bishop is in Silver City, presiding over a murder trial. Has been for the past week, which makes me wonder who this fella is." The imposter's face went white as the sheriff continued. "Also got word from a U.S. Marshal down south. Seems there's been a rash of missing persons cases. Young women disappearing after men claiming to be their relatives show up with forged legal papers. This operation has been going on for months." Samuel felt sick as the full scope of the deception became clear. This wasn't about Anna at all. It was about human trafficking, about monsters who preyed on vulnerable women with no one to protect them. "You're too late, Sheriff," the fake judge snarled, going for his gun. "The girl's already—" His words were cut off by Anna's clear, strong voice ringing across the farmyard. "My name is Anna Elizabeth Bishop, daughter of the Honorable Judge Ezekiel Bishop of Silver City. And I am very much alive." The revelation hung in the air like thunder, and Samuel realized that everything was about to change once again. Anna had just declared herself to be exactly who she'd been running from for 5 years. The question was, why? The standoff in Samuel's farmyard stretched taut as a bowstring, armed men on both sides waiting for someone to make the first move. But all eyes were on Anna as she stepped forward, her scarred face lifted proudly toward the imposter, who had nearly destroyed everything she'd found with Samuel. "I said my name is Anna Elizabeth Bishop," she repeated, her voice carrying across the evening air with newfound strength. "And I have a story to tell that's going to interest a lot of people." The fake judge's eyes darted between Anna and the surrounding lawman, his hand still hovering near his weapon. "You're making a mistake, girl. I have no idea what you're getting myself into." Anna's laugh was bitter but unafraid. "I've been running from my own shadow for 5 years. I think it's time I stopped." Sheriff Garrett kept his rifle trained on the hired guns while addressing Anna. "Miss, if you're really Judge Bishop's daughter, then we've got a lot to sort out. But first, let's get these men disarmed." The next few minutes were tense as the sheriff's men collected weapons and secured the imposters. The fake judge, whose real name turned out to be Marcus Crane, a confidence man with warrants in 3 territories, kept shooting murderous glances at Anna as if he could will her back into silence. Once the immediate danger had passed, Anna turned to Samuel, her dark eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "I need to tell you something else, something I should have said before. The fire that scarred me. It wasn't set by the people who raised me. They weren't my family at all." Samuel felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "What are you talking about?" Anna took a deep breath as if gathering courage for the hardest part of her story. "When I was 10 years old, I was kidnapped from my father's house in Silver City, taken by a man who looked respectable, who had forged papers claiming to be my uncle. My father, my real father. He searched for months, but the trail went cold. Sheriff Garrett had been listening intently, and now he stepped closer. Are you saying Judge Bishop didn't disown you, that he's been looking for you all this time?" "I don't know," Anna admitted, her voice small. "The people who took me, they kept me for 5 years, told me my father was dead, that no one was looking for me. They used me as bait, I think, to lure other children when I got too old to be useful, and when I started asking too many questions." She touched her scarred face. "They decided to get rid of me." The pieces were falling into place now, and Samuel felt sick at the thought of what Anna had endured. The fire was meant to kill you. Yes, but I survived barely. I was so traumatized, so convinced that my father was dead and no one would believe my story, that I just ran. I've been running ever since, using different names, staying ahead of anyone who might be looking for me. Sheriff Garrett was scribbling notes in a small book. Miss Bishop, if what you're saying is true, then your disappearance was the start of a kidnapping ring that's been operating for over a decade. We've been tracking missing children across 5 territories, but we never connected them to your case. Marcus Crane, the fake judge, had been listening with growing desperation. Now he sneered at Anna with undisguised hatred. You stupid girl, you have no idea what you've done. There are people involved in this that you can't even imagine. Important people. They'll never let you live to testify. Then I guess I'll have to be very careful, Anna replied with a courage that made Samuel's heart swell with pride. Over the next hour, as the sheriff's men prepared to transport their prisoners back to town, Anna told her full story for the first time in 5 years. She spoke of being torn from her comfortable life as a judge's daughter, of years of captivity and manipulation, of the night when she'd discovered her captors' plans to expand their operation and decided to fight back. They underestimated me, she said simply. Thought I was too broken, too scared to be a threat. But I'd been planning my escape for months. I never expected them to try to kill me when they realized I was gone. Samuel reached for her hand, marveling at the strength it must have taken to survive not just the physical trauma, but years of believing herself abandoned and unloved. Anna, you're the bravest person I've ever known. I don't feel brave, she confessed. For 5 years I've been so afraid of my father's rejection that I chose to stay dead rather than face the possibility that he might not want me anymore. Sheriff Garrett looked up from his notes. Miss Bishop, I think you're going to be surprised. Judge Bishop never stopped looking for you. I've heard stories about the rewards he's offered, the private investigators he's hired. That man has spent a fortune trying to find his daughter. Tears began to stream down Anna's face, cutting clean tracks through the dust and grime. He still wants me? Even like this? She gestured to her scars. I reckon he wants his daughter back, scars and all, the sheriff said gently. But there's only one way to find out for sure. As dawn broke over Hayes Farm, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Anna made a decision that would change everything. She would return to Silver City with the sheriff, would face her father after 5 years of believing herself dead to him, and would help bring down the criminal network that had destroyed so many lives. But first, she had something important to say to Samuel. They walked together to the spot where they'd first kissed, beside the old oak tree that overlooked the creek. The morning air was cool and sweet, filled with the scent of honeysuckle and the promise of a new day. I have to go, Anna said, though every word seemed to cost her. You understand that, don't you? I have to face this, have to help put these monsters away for good. Samuel nodded, though his heart was breaking. I know, and I'm proud of you for being strong enough to do it. But Samuel, Anna's voice broke and she struggled to continue. I don't know what I'll find when I get to Silver City. I don't know if my father will truly accept me or if there will be a place for me in his world. And even if there is, I'm still scarred, still damaged. You deserve someone whole, someone beautiful. Samuel silenced her with a kiss, pouring all his love and faith into that gentle contact. When they broke apart, his blue eyes were fierce with determination. Anna Bishop, you listen to me. You are beautiful, not despite your scars, but because of everything they represent. They're proof that you survived, that you fought, that you never gave up. And if your father can't see that, then he's a fool. But I don't think he is. Anna's tears fell freely now, but they were tears of hope rather than despair. Will you wait for me, however long it takes? I'll wait forever if I have to, Samuel promised, and meant every word. But I don't think it'll come to that. You're going home, Anna, to your real family. And when you're ready, when all this is settled, I'll be right here. 3 days later, Anna stood on the platform of the Silver City train station, her heart hammering against her ribs like a caged bird. Sheriff Garrett had sent word ahead and she knew her father would be waiting. But 5 years was a long time, and she was no longer the carefree 10-year-old who had been stolen from her bed in the middle of the night. The train whistle blew, and passengers began to disembark. Anna smoothed her dress, a new one that Samuel had insisted on buying for her in Redemption Creek, and tried to calm her nerves. She'd positioned herself so that her scarred side was turned away from the platform, an old habit she couldn't quite break. Then she saw him. Judge Ezekiel Bishop stood at the far end of the platform, his silver hair gleaming in the afternoon sun, his tall frame as imposing as Anna remembered. But there was something different about him, a weariness in his shoulders, a haunted quality to his eyes that spoke of years of searching and hoping and grieving. Their eyes met across the crowded platform, and Anna saw the exact moment when recognition dawned in her father's face. His composure, famous throughout the territory for its unshakable calm, crumbled completely. His hand went to his heart, and his lips formed her name, though no sound emerged. Anna began walking toward him, each step feeling like a mile. The crowd seemed to part before her, and she was dimly aware of conversations stopping, of people staring at the scarred young woman making her way toward the distinguished judge. When she was 10 feet away, she stopped, suddenly paralyzed by fear. What if he was disappointed? What if the reality of her damaged face was too much? What if... Anna. Her father's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried all the love and longing of 5 lost years. My beautiful girl, you've come home. He opened his arms, and Anna fell into them like a child, sobbing against his chest as he held her tight enough to make up for all the embraces they'd missed. She felt his tears falling into her hair, heard him murmuring her name over and over like a prayer of thanksgiving. I thought you were dead, he whispered brokenly. I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping. But as the years went by, Anna, my darling girl, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. It wasn't your fault, Papa. Anna managed through her tears, using the childhood name she'd thought she'd forgotten. It wasn't anyone's fault, but theirs. When they finally pulled apart, Judge Bishop cupped his daughter's face in his hands, his eyes taking in every detail of her scars without flinching. What did they do to you, my brave girl? They tried to break me, Anna said simply, but they failed. Over the following weeks, as Anna testified against Marcus Crane and his associates, the full scope of the kidnapping ring was revealed. Dozens of children had been taken over the years, sold into various forms of servitude or worse. Anna's testimony, combined with evidence gathered by territorial marshals, led to convictions that would see the perpetrators hanged or imprisoned for life. But the most important healing happened quietly, in the private moments between a father and daughter learning to know each other again. Judge Bishop had indeed remarried to a kind woman named Catherine, who welcomed Anna with open arms and genuine warmth. Anna's half-brother, 8-year-old Michael, was initially shy around his scarred sister, but soon adored her completely. You know, Judge Bishop said one evening as they sat on his front porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, I used to dream about the day you'd come home. In my dreams, you were always exactly as you were when you were taken, my perfect little girl, unchanged by time or trauma. Anna tensed, waiting for the disappointment she'd feared for so long. But seeing you now, her father continued, seeing the woman you've become despite everything you've endured, Anna, you're more beautiful than I ever dared imagine. Your scars don't diminish you. They're proof of your incredible strength. Someone else told me something very similar, Anna said softly, thinking of Samuel and the farm that had become her sanctuary. Judge Bishop studied his daughter's face, noting the way her expression softened when she spoke of this unknown someone. Tell me about him. Anna did, and as she spoke of Samuel's kindness, his acceptance, his unwavering love, Judge Bishop saw his daughter truly smile for the first time since her return. It was a smile that transformed her entire face, making the scars seem like decorative flourishes rather than disfigurements. He sounds like a good man, the judge said finally, the kind of man who sees hearts instead of faces. He is, Anna agreed. Papa, I love him. I want to spend my life with him. But I also want to be part of your family again, and I don't know how to do both. Judge Bishop was quiet for a long moment, considering. Then he smiled, the first truly joyful smile Anna had seen from him since her return. Anna, my dear, there's nothing that says you can't have both. Redemption Creek isn't so far away that we couldn't visit regularly, and I suspect this Samuel Hayes of yours might appreciate having a judge for a father-in-law, useful for settling property disputes and such. Anna laughed, a sound of pure joy that seemed to heal something in both their hearts. Are you giving me your blessing to marry a farmer? I'm giving you my blessing to marry the man who saw your true worth when the rest of the world saw only scars, Judge Bishop replied. That makes him the richest man alive, in my opinion. 2 months later, Anna stood in the garden behind Hayes Farm, wearing her mother's wedding dress, carefully altered by Catherine Bishop's skilled hands to accommodate Anna's slightly fuller figure. The scars on her face were still there, still noticeable, but they were part of her story now rather than the end of it. Samuel waited for her at a simple altar built beneath the old oak tree, his weathered face glowing with love and pride. Judge Bishop would perform the ceremony, having traveled from Silver City with his family to give his daughter away to the man who had saved her in every way that mattered. The townspeople of Redemption Creek were there too, the same people who had mocked and tormented Anna on that terrible day weeks ago. But word of her true identity, her incredible survival story, and her role in bringing down a criminal network had transformed their contempt into admiration. Martha Sinclair had even brought a wedding cake, though she couldn't quite meet Anna's eyes when she offered her congratulations. As Anna walked down the makeshift aisle, her scarred hand tucked into her father's arm, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The years of pain and hiding, the cruel words and rejection, the night when she'd thought her life was over. All of it had led to this moment, to this man, to this perfect, imperfect life they would build together. "Dearly beloved," Judge Bishop began, his voice strong and clear, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of two souls who have found in each other the healing that only true love can provide." As Samuel took her hands in his, Anna looked into his blue eyes and saw her future reflected there. Not perfect, but real. Not unmarked by hardship, but strengthened by it. Not the fairy tale ending she might have dreamed of as a child, but something better. A love built on understanding, acceptance, and the deep recognition of two hearts that had chosen each other despite everything the world had thrown at them. "Do you, Samuel Hayes, take Anna Bishop to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Samuel said, his voice steady and sure. "I have since the moment I first saw her. And do you, Anna Bishop, take Samuel Hayes to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" Anna looked around at the faces gathered to witness their union. Her father, beaming with pride, her stepmother and half-brother, already feeling like family, the sheriff who had helped save her life, even the townspeople who had learned to see past scars to the person beneath. But most of all, she looked at Samuel, the man who had offered her water when she was dying of thirst, bread when she was starving, shelter when she had nowhere to go, and love when she thought herself unlovable. "I do," she said, her voice ringing clear across the garden. "With all my heart I do." When they kissed as husband and wife, Anna felt the last of her fears fall away like autumn leaves. She was no longer the scarred stranger who had stumbled into Redemption Creek, nor was she the lost child who had been stolen from her father's house. She was Anna Hayes now, wife to a good man, daughter to a loving father, and survivor of trials that had only made her stronger. As the celebration continued into the evening, with music and dancing and enough food to feed half the territory, Anna found herself standing once again beneath the stars with Samuel, just as they had on that first night when she'd told him her story. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, her head resting on his shoulder. "Taking in a scarred stranger? Your life would have been so much simpler without me." Samuel's arms tightened around her, and she felt his smile against her hair. "Anna Hayes, you listen to me. Simpler isn't better. Peaceful isn't always right. That day I saw you huddled against the store wall, being tormented by those fools. I had a choice. I could have driven past, minded my own business, kept my life simple and safe. But then I would have missed the greatest adventure of my life." "Adventure?" Anna laughed. "Is that what you call being threatened by fake judges and testifying in criminal trials?" "I call it love," Samuel said simply. "Real love. The kind that changes everything and makes you grateful for every single day. The kind that proves that the best things in life are worth fighting for." Anna turned in his arms, studying his dear, familiar face in the moonlight. "I love you, Samuel Hayes, for seeing beauty where others saw only scars, for giving me a home when I had nowhere to go, for showing me that I was worthy of love, exactly as I am. And I love you, Anna Hayes, for surviving everything that tried to break you, for having the courage to trust again, for making my house into a home and my life into an adventure. as they kissed beneath the star-filled sky, surrounded by the sounds of celebration and joy, Anna realized that her journey was complete. She had found her way home, not to a place, but to a person. Not to the life she'd lost, but to the life she'd chosen. The scars would always be there, reminders of pain survived and battles won. But they were no longer marks of shame or sources of hiding. They were proof of her strength, testimonies to her courage, and in Samuel's eyes, they were simply part of the face he loved more than any other in the world. In the end, that made all the difference.